Chapter 41. 41. A wounded man. You are listening at novelfull.audio. 41. A wounded man. On the tray was an entire set of fragile glass teacups and a full pot of boiling water. If all of this landed Luo Ying's face, it would either kill her or disfigure her. Luo Wan fell forward, sneering to herself. Luo Ying, as long as you disappear from this world, the Luo family and Lu Zhao will be mine. Before Luo Ying could react, the man in front of her had already held her tightly in his arms. What followed was the sound of the tea set breaking. The purple clay teapot struck Lu Zhao's shoulder, and the fabric on his shoulder were all scalded. The man frowned silently. The rest of the boiling water flowed on the ground, giving off hot steam and covering the ground with glass shards. If not for Lu Zhao's quick reaction, the pot of boiling water would have already struck Luo Ying's face. Coupled with the broken tea set, this would be a proper plastic surgery package. I'm sorry, brother.in.law, sister. I didn't mean to. Luo Wan stood up and lowered her head slightly. She seemed to be apologizing, but the discontent was clear in her eyes. Why has Lu Zhao seemed to have changed into a different person? Why was he being so protective of Luo Ying? Lu Zhao ignored to Luo Wan's apology. Instead, he helped Luo Ying sit up straight and carefully looked at Luo Ying to see if she was injured. In an instant, Luo Ying felt a little touched. He had several layers of fabric on him, but the water would have scalded him, nevertheless. Even so, his first reaction was to check if she was all right. I'm fine, she said. Luo Ying shook her head and reached out to touch Lu Zhao's shoulder. Lu Zhao shook his head and grabbed her hand. I'm afraid I'll have to go to your room to tidy up. Luo Ying nodded and quickly led Lu Zhao to her room. She took Lu Zhao to the bathroom, then found suitable clothes and a first aid kit from her brother's room. She went back to her room. Just as Luo Ying was walking back to her room with a fresh set of clothes and the first aid kit, she saw Luo Wan standing hesitantly at the door. In the original book, Luo Wan liked Lu Zhao very much. Later on, even if she had to suffer along with the Lu family as they incurred heavy losses brought by her actions, she only had Lu Zhao in her sights. Luo Wan, is incest your hobby? Luo Wan heard Luo Ying's voice and jumped up in shock. She looked at Luo Ying with hatred in her eyes. Mr. Lu is an honored guest of our family. Besides, I messed up just now. What's wrong with coming to apologize to him? Luo Wan raised her chin and spoke confidently to Luo Ying. Luo Ying wasn't angry. She smiled. Where exactly did you mess up? The fall, or the target? The carpet in the Luo family's house had a velvety texture. It was not slippery, certainly not enough to trip people up. My dear younger sister, your clumsiness knows no bounds. How did you manage to fall in our home? You practically grew up with that carpet. Luo Wan's face alternated between a deep blush and a deathly white. She couldn't keep up with the act any longer. You. I'm concerned about your husband. What are you getting at? You said it yourself. He's my husband, so stay away from him. Stop trying to get your paws on him, it's so blatant that I'm having second-hand embarrassment. Luo Ying smiled, held the door handle, pulled the door open, and walked in. As soon as she walked in, she saw Lu Zhao, who was only wrapped in a bath towel, standing by the bed and looking at her with burning eyes. Her pink bath towel barely covered some important bits, exposing his broad shoulders, 8-pack abs, and eye-catching striations. Luo Ying's face burned red. It was broad daylight and such a handsome man was standing by the bed, with her bath towel around him. Her mind was suddenly filled with depraved obscenities. She quickly looked away and handed the clothes in her hands to the man. Get changed in the bathroom. Lu Zhao took the clothes and walked into the bathroom. Luo Ying then remembered what she had just said to Luo Wan, he's my husband, so stay away from him. She didn't know if Lu Zhao, who was standing in the room, had heard her. Luo Ying opened her first aid kit and deftly found bandages and burn ointment. Before she found herself in this life, she had been a very dedicated actress. She took part in many scenes by herself and was unwilling to have stunt doubles take her place. Therefore, she took many bumps and falls, and grew skilled at treating her wounds. Just as she finished preparing, Lu Xiao walked out of the bathroom. "Will you be helping me?" The man's voice came from behind Luo Ying. Luo Ying turned around, only to see that the man was still undressed. There was a large red burn mark on his bare shoulder. "Yes." Luo Ying slowly approached Lu Xiao's side with some alcohol and burn cream. Chapter 42. 42 Dinner. You are listening at novelfull.audio. 42 Dinner. Luo Ying's movements were very gentle. Her eyelashes were lowered, and she was focused on the red scars on the man's body. The cotton stick covered the wound with a cool burn ointment. The burn ointment was applied to the place where the skin was scalded. Lu Xiao felt the pain and hissed. "What's wrong? Did I hurt you?" she asked. Luo Ying raised her eyes and looked at him in panic. The woman's watery eyes pleased Lu Xiao. His expression softened. "It's all right. Continue applying the medicine." Luo Ying nodded and continued to help the man deal with the burns on his body. The man's eyes seemed to be on her body and never once left. After she finished applying the medicine, Lu Xiao put on his clothes. His eyes were still fixed on Luo Ying. "I'm sorry," Luo Ying said. "My stepsister has always been like this. I heard your conversation outside the room." Lu Xiao interrupted her and pulled her into his arms. She sat on the man's firm thighs and blushed for a moment. The man's breath encroached upon her ear. "You told your sister that I'm your husband. What do you mean by that?" No matter how good of an actress she was, Luo Ying couldn't keep her cool in such an intimate scene. Her body felt as if it had been electrified from head to toe. "I'm just saying that I don't want to get a divorce with you. Why don't we just continue living like this? Live on." "As what exactly?" Lu Xiao's voice was very soft, as if he was whispering into her ear. "As an ordinary couple," Luo Ying said. "Do you know what your duty as a wife is?" the man asked. Luo Ying's face turned red. She only knew that if she wanted to survive, she had to hold on to this man's thighs with every fiber of her body and prevent a divorce from ever occurring, but she hadn't thought about whether she wanted to be an actual wife to Lu Xiao. She had not expected Lu Xiao to be so direct. "No, Luo Ying was about to say something, but Lu Xiao's lips had already landed on her neck. He sucked gently. He nibbled her skin teasingly. Luo Ying felt as if her body had caught fire. No, there was no need to be so fast. "Sis, have you treated the wound? Dad is calling you downstairs for dinner." Luo Wan's voice came from the door. Luo Ying stood up reflexively and was about to open the door when she saw Lu Xiao. "Best neaten up before you open the door." The man's voice came from behind. Luo Ying turned around and looked at Lu Xiao in confusion. Lu Xiao pointed at her collar. Luo Ying walked into the bathroom and spotted a hickey. This wretched man. When the two came out of the room, Luo Wan stared at Luo Ying. When she saw that Luo Ying had changed into a dress with a slightly higher neckline, her eyes were burned with flames. What was wrong with Luo Ying? Wasn't she avoiding Lu Xiao like the plague? How did it come to this? Luo Ying's stepmother, Liao Hong, was also confused. When Lu Xiao and Luo Ying came out of the bedroom, they were holding hands, just like an actual couple. Had Luo Ying truly changed after jumping off the building that time? Luo Hao was about to say something, but after seeing how close the two were, he softened his tone. "Let's eat. We'll talk after we're done." Lu Xiao sat down next to Luo Ying. The dishes on the table were all Luo Ying's favorites. It was obvious that Luo Hao had arranged this in advance. This frigid man's appearance belied his warm heart. He truly loved his daughter. At one point, he got in the way of Luo Ying's pursuit of Lin Su and instead got her together with Lu Zhao. He had only done so out of the wishes of a loving father. During the meal, Liao Hong and Luo Wan chatted with Lu Zhao warmly and even put some food on his plate. Brother.in.law, I made these prawns. They're delicious. I peeled one for you to try. Luo Wan put the peeled shrimp meat on Lu Zhao's plate. Lu Zhao only shot Luo Wan a cold glance. Brother.in.law, please forgive me for my carelessness. I didn't mean it. That's right, Liao Hong chimed in. If it weren't for Luo Ying, you wouldn't have been injured. Luo Ying found her words utterly ridiculous. It was as if she had poured the boiling water on Lu Zhao herself. Just as she was about to say something, a half-filled bowl of shrimp meat with mustard and soy sauce was placed in front of her. Those were her favorite seasonings. Please, eat. Lu Zhao's expression softened, and his eyes were filled with warmth as he looked at her. Luo Wan clenched her fists tightly when she saw this scene. What right did Luo Ying have? Chapter 43. 43 Public Display. You are listening at novelfull.audio. 43 Public Display. Luo Wan spoke slowly. Such a lovely couple. I'm so envious of your love. But I'm a little curious. It doesn't add up. In spite of such deep love, why is the partnership still being called off? Before Lu Zhao could say anything, Luo Hao put his chopsticks down with an audible click. It's a family dinner today. There will be no talking about business at the table. When he saw his daughter and son.in.law getting along so well, Luo Hao felt a huge weight being lifted off his chest. Business was a distant concern. Lu Zhao and Luo Ying seemed to have mended fences. He would have plenty of time to talk to Lu Zhao later. Dad, didn't we ask brother.in.law to come over to inquire about the project? Why isn't he saying anything? I'm happy to see them being such a lovely couple, but the world still moves on around them. They can't ignore family matters. Luo Ying could tell that Luo Wan was trying to sow discord. Luo Ying looked at Luo Hao. His heart problems were getting to him. His lips were a little dark, and he was panting heavily. Father, I don't think a company as big as the Lu Corporation would cancel a cooperation for no reason. As far as I know, this partnership concerns electronic chips. The market for electronic chips is shrinking year by year, and this path may not hold much promise in the future. Luo Ying still remembered some contents of the book. Lu Zhao had indeed rejected the proposal, but in turn, he offered Luo Hao a better and more promising project. You're just a B-list star. What would you know? Chen Ji told me that although electronic chips won't have much prospects, they're still good for making a quick buck, Luo Wan said anxiously. Chen Ji was Luo Wan's cousin and the child of Liao Hong's younger sister. He was now working in the Luo family's company and was fully in charge of the collaborative project. I'm sorry to hear that Chen Ji's own project didn't get approved. But what does it have to do with our family's partnership with the Lu family? Luo Ying asked with a smile. She didn't expect Luo Wan to give herself away so quickly. In the original book, the Luo family's company went to the rocks, and Chen Ji and Luo Wan's contributions in that matter could no longer be hidden. Luo Hao frowned. We have always been stringent with QC. He had not expected his daughter, who had never been interested in business, to know so much. Luo Ying looked at Luo Hao's white hair and felt a little sad. This man had always been looking out for his son and daughter, and had never thought for himself. Oh, Dad, we're not in a hurry to start a new project. Our family's projects have been stable recently. You should find time to rest and get a physical examination. I've made an appointment for you for next Monday's physical examination. Remember to go. Luo Ying smiled as she took out a physical examination card and handed it to Luo Hao. For a moment, Luo Hao's eyes betrayed the warmth within. Lu Zhao looked at the petite woman in front of him. She had truly changed a lot. She used to disobey her father, but today she was so considerate of Luo Hao. Dad, I'll consider the project, but there's indeed a problem with the project that Chen Ji handed over. If he's managing it in the future, I'm not going to give it much through, Lu Zhao said coldly. This sentence was equivalent to a death sentence for Chen Ji. This was his only foothold in the company. Liao Hong looked at Luo Ying, and a trace of ruthlessness flashed in her eyes. Luo Ying was now starting to break down her hold in the company. She had not seen this coming. Did the doctor give Luo Ying a new brain after she jumped off the building? Luo Hao and Luo Ying enjoyed the meal thoroughly. After the meal, Luo Ying and Lu Zhao got ready to leave. Luo Wan had not taken Luo Ying's warning to heart. Instead, she smiled at Lu Zhao and said, Brother.in.law, why don't you stay for the night? Sister's room is a little small, but we do have a guest room. Luo Ying looked at Luo Wan discontentedly. This woman would not leave her husband alone, and she had harmed the original Luo Ying many times over. I'm sorry, your brother.in.law won't be able to sleep without me. Luo Ying looked at Luo Wan and laughed. Luo Ying, how can you be so shameless? Luo Wan frowned and looked at Lu Zhao. Lu Zhao nodded. We won't disturb you tonight. I most certainly can't sleep at night without Luo Ying. Luo Wan was so angry that she dropped all pretenses and threw an ugly scowl across the room. Luo Ying was here to make things difficult for her. She clearly said that she would definitely divorce Lu Zhao, but now she has gone back on her words and even brought Lu Zhao here to show off. Wasn't she clearly provoking her? Alright, since you're going back, do be careful. Luo Hao interrupted their conversation and let Luo Ying and Lu Zhao go home. Chapter 44. 44. A new manager. You are listening at novelfull.audio. 44. A new manager. Lu Zhao and Luo Ying's residence was not very close to the Luo family's house. It would take about half an hour to drive, and they would have to pass by a highway. After a long day, Luo Ying was a little tired. She leaned against the seat and fell asleep. When they arrived at the villa, Luo Ying was still sleeping soundly. Lu Zhao carried Luo Ying out of the car and only stopped when she was in the bedroom. She rarely slept in their bedroom, but last night, she came over by herself. So, would it be the same tonight? Lu Zhao looked at the woman's sleeping face, and the tender part of his heart was touched. He did not know why, but it felt good to be relied on by this woman. When Luo Ying woke up, the man in front of her was staring at her. She reached out to Lu Zhao and said, "Hold me." Lu Zhao didn't say anything. He just leaned over and slowly hugged Luo Ying. At that moment, Luo Ying was like a demure little woman. She was no longer the sharp-tongued force of fury at the dinner table with Luo Wan. Lu Zhao didn't know why, but his heart softened at that sight. I haven't seen you in a few days. I've missed you so much. Luo Ying buried her head in Lu Zhao's arms. It's so tiring to travel alone. It's better to be with you. Lu Zhao reached out and touched the top of Luo Ying's head. Cancel your contract with Lin Su. You don't have to be an artiste anymore. I can support you. Luo Ying shook her head. She couldn't give up this job so easily. She still wanted to develop her acting career and give Lin Su a good slap in the face. Then I'll open an acting agency for you, and you can terminate your contract with your current company, Lu Zhao said. Although the Lu Corporation had not invested much in the entertainment industry before, it was not too much trouble for them to open an entertainment company, if it was for her sake. Luo Ying shook her head again. If she abruptly terminated the contract with her current company, it might become a dark history for her in the future. She planned to use this year to regain her reputation and renown, and then build her own studio. However, from Lu Zhao's point of view, it seemed like Luo Ying was unwilling to be separated from Lin Su. Somehow, he was a little jealous and lowered his head to kiss Luo Ying's lips. Luo Ying's face blushed when she was suddenly kissed, but she reacted and began to reciprocate Lu Zhao's kiss. As they kissed, the two of them lay down on the soft bed. Lu Zhao's hand wandered all over her body. Luo Ying came back to her senses from the hot kiss and slowly panted. Lu Zhao looked at the gentle little woman lying in his arms. "If you like it, I can help you open a studio right now. Lin Su's company won't dare to ask you for compensation for the breach of contract." Luo Ying shook her head. "If you say something like this now, it's like you're asking me to use my beauty in exchange for the studio. You're my wife. Even if you want the stars in the sky, I'll give it to you." Lu Zhao touched Luo Ying's hair. This was the first time Lu Zhao had said something like that. Luo Ying happily snuggled into his arms. "In that case, can you help me investigate something?" Lin Su's management company had a regular meeting with the managers and artistes every Monday, mostly to be updated on their work. Generally, artistes had to sit together with their managers. When Xia Lan walked into the room, she realized that her seat had been taken by another girl. The director of the artist management department, Zhang Qi, looked at her sharply. Xia Lan shuddered and walked to Luo Ying's side. "What are you doing? Why is someone else sitting there?" Next to Luo Ying was a fair-skinned boy. If Xia Lan was not mistaken, he was a manager who had been fired. "Madam Xia, let me introduce you to my new manager, Qi Tong." The boy looked at Xia Lan and nodded. "Didn't we agree that we'll live in peace for this year?" "Luo Ying, what are you doing?" Xia Lan said to Luo Ying in a hushed tone. "Env Xia Lan, come here." Just as Luo Ying was about to speak, Zhang Qi interrupted their conversation. "I heard that you sold the business data of our company's artistes to other companies and even paid an internet army to defame our artistes." Zhang Qi's voice was stern. "Weren't you supposed to work with Luo Ying to promote a few hosts for a music program and a fashion week project?" She had specifically come to Luo Ying for these projects, but Xia Lan didn't want Luo Ying to become famous through these projects, so she had suppressed the projects and prepared to give them to Su Ran. "I just thought that Luo Ying wasn't very suitable," Xia Lan's voice wavered. It was a taboo for managers to turn down an artiste's project without permission and keep it in their hands. "Besides that, you also fired a newcomer, right?" Chapter 45. 45 A Job Opportunity. You are listening at novelfull.audio. 45 A Job Opportunity. The person that Xia Lan had maliciously fired was Qi Tong, who was sitting next to Luo Ying. "According to our company's rules, you have lost all managerial rights over Luo Ying. However, our company doesn't plan to fire you directly. The resources in your hands should have been handed over to Su Ran, right? You may ask Su Ran if she's willing to let you be her manager." Su Ran's manager, Zhao Suo, had officially resigned this week, and it was time to choose a new manager. Xia Lan looked at Su Ran with pleading eyes. She had helped Su Ran with many things. The projects she had received were all funneled to Su Ran. She had even paid an army of fake reviewers to suppress Luo Ying's popularity after her performance last week. Su Ran stood up in front of everyone, and an apologetic expression flashed across her face. "I'm sorry, Sister Xia Lan. I know that you've done a lot for me, but I've already talked to Sister Meng Lin. From now on, Meng Lin will be my manager." Everyone sucked in a cold breath. Luo Ying was the only one who did not react. She yawned lazily. She had already found out about this when she asked Lu Zhao to investigate Xia Lan. Even after what Luo Ying had said to Xia Lan had not repented. She rejected the next project for Luo Ying and was even prepared to hand it over to Su Ran. Luo Ying was not an unreasonable person, but Xia Lan had truly let her down. Therefore, she bribed Zhao Suo and made her resign in advance. Then, she reported Xia Lan's dereliction of duty to Zhang Qi. Xia Lan's face turned pale as she looked at Su Ran. "However, Sister Xia Lan has done so much for me and has worked hard for the company for so many years. Director Zhang, I hope you won't fire Sister Xiao. Don't you agree, Luo Ying? Luo Ying laughed coldly. Su Ran was such a malicious orator. By making such a statement, she would be the kind and innocent maiden, while Luo Ying would be given a choice to be as kind-hearted as she was, or to be the cruel villainess. I'm not as kind as Su Ran. I hope that we can deal with Xiao Lan according to the company's rules, Luo Ying said coldly. She could let the occasional transgression slide, but for so many years, Xiao Lan had treated the original Luo Ying like a fool and fed her with lies. Even after she had given her a fair warning, Xiao Lan still did not repent, so she would have to pay the price for her actions. All right, he said. Zhang Qi nodded. Xiao Lan, since you don't have any artistes to manage anymore, you can take a break for now. Xiao Lan bit her lip and nodded reluctantly. Although it was a temporary leave, she had a feeling that her dismissal notice would come soon. She had not expected Luo Ying to gain so much wit and intelligence in so short a time. She had not seen this coming. After dealing with Xiao Lan, Luo Ying felt a weight lifted off her chest. Sister Luo Ying, why did you choose me to be your manager? Qi Tong asked her cautiously. Luo Ying remembered the character Qi Tong in the original novel. He was hard-working, capable, and was dutiful. Later on, he became a very good manager. Although he was previously framed by Xiao Lan and left the company, he still managed to gain a high standing in the industry with his own abilities. However, he had harbored a hatred for the company and constantly attempted to take revenge on Lin Su, Xiao Lan, and Su Ran. In the end, he was driven to suicide. Luo Ying did not want such a good seedling to die in this way, so she chose him to be her manager. Because I think you'll definitely become a great manager in the future, Luo Ying said with a smile. I don't have much ability, but I'm good at judging people. Trust me. Qi Tong nodded. He had a feeling that Luo Ying was destined for greatness. After changing her manager, Luo Ying's job opportunities came, one after another. The performance clip from the party a few days ago was pulled out again for marketing purposes. Then, famous music centers for music programs sent Luo Ying a selection of choices. This time, she was to host a music program, interviewing singers and idols who had been singing recently. There would be a special stage for the host every week. The offer was a solid one, and the competition in terms of candidates was fierce. Many of the hosts who served on this show had gone on to become regular guests of variety shows. With the aid of endorsements, their popularity among the people would also rise. It was a valuable stepping stone. Luo Ying had already made preparations for it. On the day of the selection, Luo Ying saw a familiar figure as soon as she got out of the car. It was Su Ran. Chapter 46. 46 fans. You are listening at novelfull.audio. 46 fans. Su Ran was wearing an elegant little dress and was walking toward the broadcasting station. A red carpet had been laid out for her at the entrance of the broadcasting station. Su Ran, who was wearing an apricot-colored dress, walked gracefully on the red carpet. Although there were many idols and actors who came to interview for the host's position this time, most of the fans were here for Su Ran. They were holding up light signs and all kinds of flowers, cheering wildly when Su Ran arrived. The cheers startled Luo Ying, who was in the car. Luo Ying couldn't help but remember the time of her previous life, when she had a lot of fans. They swarmed over her each time. But now, not even a single one of them turned up. She believed that as long as she worked hard, she would be able to work her way up again. Su Ran walked into the broadcasting station building. Luo Ying slowly got out of the car. She was wearing a white shirt with a black vest, a brown-yellow pleated skirt and long boots today. Her long hair was let down, and it was as black and beautiful as a raven's tail. The fans who were still mesmerized by Su Ran's beauty all stopped and turned to look at Luo Ying. She had not put on any brightening cosmetics or lipstick today. She only put on a light layer of foundation, and her makeup was so light, that it was almost invisible. However, This light makeup made her look delicate and pretty, like a university campus belle who radiated with a special kind of innocent beauty. Am I seeing things? Is that Luo Ying? Oh my god, is Luo Ying that beautiful? All she did was change her makeup and hairstyle, right? The crowd burst into a heated discussion. Luo Ying smiled at the camera at the door. Her eyes were bright, and her smile was sweet. The fans and reporters who were holding their cameras kept pressing the shutter, afraid that they would miss a moment of Luo Ying's beauty. After Luo Ying left, everyone finally reacted. Luo Ying seemed to have changed into a different person recently. As soon as Luo Ying arrived at the waiting hall, she saw many old acquaintances. She spotted the fashionably dressed Cheng Yu, a new idol who had just become popular, and Lin Lu, who had recently appeared in several idol dramas and was known as the little sister next door. It seemed like this was a highly coveted assignment. Su Ran also noticed Luo Ying coming in. She narrowed her eyes and looked a little dumbfounded. Luo Ying's current styling team was too powerful. How could she change so much in such a short time? Before, she looked like a vixen dotted up with wood paint, but now, she looked like a gentle, reliable girl. Next door. Are you here for the interview too? Su Ran asked as she looked at Luo Ying. Luo Ying nodded and looked at Su Ran in confusion. What's the matter? Is there something else going on here? This role doesn't suit you. Can you stop pestering Lin Su? He's already working his hardest to stay out of your way. I hope that you won't make things difficult for him. There's still a year left on your contract. Can't you just live your life in peace? Luo Ying frowned and looked at Su Ran. I'm contracted to work from 4 to 6. My revenue for this job will also be distributed to the company and indirectly, to Lin Su. Lin Su has nothing to lose, and all to gain, if I take this job. You still care about him, don't you? Su Ran's eyes were fixed on Luo Ying. Luo Ying was already cursing Lin Su and Su Ran's names every single day. This man and woman were really a match made in heaven. Was she now being treated as a bootlicker, even when she was doing what she was supposed to do? I don't care about him, I care about my career. Su Ran choked on her words. She didn't expect Luo Ying to say something like that. When Luo Ying said this, her eyes were clear and unwavering. Was she speaking the truth, that she was going to walk the path of the entertainment industry? That's enough, Su Ran. I couldn't care any less about your man, Lin Su. I only care about getting this job. It's very important to me. Do you understand? Luo Ying patted Su Ran's shoulder and smiled slyly. My husband is rich, handsome, gentle, and considerate. Why should I fight with you over such an ordinary man? After saying this, Luo Ying raised her small bag and left Su Ran's line of sight. Su Ran stood in place, confused. Did Luo Ying lose her brain by jumping off the building? Had she replaced it with a new one? In the past, Luo Ying hated Lu Xiao so much. How could she have said something like, my husband is rich, handsome, gentle, and considerate? Chapter 47. 47 Interview. You are listening at novelfull.audio. 47 Interview. Luo Ying went to the bathroom and touched up on her makeup. According to her memory, Lin Su had originally fought hard for Su Ran to land this role. However, Lin Lu, who had a more powerful backer, beat him to the punch. The recording of Su Ran's audition was soon uploaded to the internet. Lin Lu soon relented under the pressure of public opinion. Su Ran found her breakout stardom after this incident. Later on, a director took a fancy to her acting skills and invited her to star in a TV drama. The female lead of that TV drama was a national idol. Luo Ying practiced her smile in front of the mirror. She was going to overthrow the original plot. Luo Ying's timeslot was ahead of Su Ran's and behind Lin Lu's. Luo Ying sat in the preparation area and looked at Lin Lu. Lin Lu was a mediocre performer. She was tone-deaf when she sang, and her dancing was barely satisfactory. Although she was very beautiful, she always had a blank expression. There was no sense of identity in her movements, and she was not particularly bright either. She did not look like she had the quick wits needed for interviews and hosting. It was no wonder that Sue Rand's fans had attacked her so thoroughly. The Music Center's producer, Zhang Yong, was sitting on the judging panel. To his left was Lin Su, to his right was a man with a big belly, and behind him was a delicate-looking woman. That should be the legendary sugar daddy of Lin Lu. After Lin Lu finished her performance, she bowed to the judges. Both Lin Su and Zhang Yong frowned. The big-bellied man said to Zhang Yong, "What do you think? My recommendation to you isn't bad, right?" Lin Lu opened her eyes wide and looked at Zhang Yong innocently. Zhang Yong forced a smile. "Mr. Wu, Ms. Lin Lu is so popular. She is bound to have a lot of acting offers. It's a waste of her talent to grace our stage." The big-bellied man laughed and said, "How so? This job is much better than filming." No, I think this job is a perfect fit for Lin Lu." The two of them went back and forth for a while before Zhang Yong called out the next person's number. Zhang Yong was a veteran producer, and the variety shows he produced were all big hits in the book. It was the same for the host of the Music Center. All his picks went on to be major stars. He was originally very picky about the host and guest selection, but in the past few years, due to the pressure from various forces, he had grown disillusioned and no choice but to use subpar material. Luo Ying walked to the front of the judges and smiled at them. Lin Su found an excuse to get up and leave. The other judges on the judging panel also turned their faces away. How did a person like Luo Ying, who couldn't do anything, get a spot for the interview? Our interview will be divided into two segments. One will be a stage that is prepared in advance, and the other will be an impromptu speech. Are you ready? Luo Ying nodded. She had already prepared her own song for the stage. It was a song that she had used to make a name for herself on a talent show. She was dressed very youthfully today, and when she jumped up, her hair bounced up and down animatedly. What was even more shocking was that she sang with no visual aids or filters. The dance for this song was very difficult and also very physically draining. It was filled with jumping movements, but after the entire song, she wasn't even panting, and even had the time to school her expression. The judges and staff in the audience were all stunned. A few of them even took out their phones to record her singing and dancing. Zhang Yong nodded. Luo Ying did have potential. She had been wasted in soulless TV shows for so many years. It was really unfair. I hope your company still has plans to release a solo album for you. Zhang Yong said. The large-bellied Wu Wei shot a venomous glare at Luo Ying. This woman was probably Lin Lu's biggest competitor, but why didn't he notice that there was such a stunner in the entertainment industry? If he had the chance, he would like to try this woman out. Luo Ying noticed Wu Wei's eyes, but she only glanced at him indifferently. Alright, let's move on to the next segment. The next segment also went very smoothly. Luo Ying had been a host before, so she was very familiar with the entire process and could also improvise some interesting jokes according to some situations. Zhang Yong nodded and found it a pity. If it wasn't for Wu Wei, Luo Ying would have been his pick. Chapter 48. 48 An Invitation. You are listening at novelfull.audio. 48 An Invitation. Sue Ran looked at Luo Ying. The woman had made it all look so effortless. Sue Ran was a little saddened. When it came to singing and dancing, she had only trained for a few months. Naturally, she couldn't be compared to Luo Ying. The song she chose was also very simple. It was a retro singing and dancing song. Although it contained both singing and dancing, the dance intensity was very low. The main theme of the performance was that of an elegant lady's style. She was also wearing a cheongsam and a shawl today, and she exuded a vague, timeless form of sexiness. Lin Su had returned to the judges' table and was looking at Su Ran, mesmerized. Zhang Yong furrowed his brows as he watched Su Ran's performance. He could not deny that she was far better than average, but after watching her sing and dance with her filters fully turned on, everything felt like an itch through his socks. Su Ran's hosting abilities were also decent, but she was still not as good as Luo Ying. The interview ended quickly, and the judges gathered together to discuss. I think Luo Ying is very suitable to be a host, Zhang Yong said. Lin Su thought there was something wrong with his ears when he heard this. What did you just say? Luo Ying, did I mishear it? Zhang Yong, is your brain broken? How could you choose Luo Ying? Zhang Yong shook his head. Luo Ying's performance was really good this time. She easily made the stage hers. I can even imagine what her stage would be like. Lin Su felt as if his world was about to collapse. The woman who could do anything but seduce him every day was actually being praised for her excellent stage performance. The woman sitting behind Zhang Yong finally broke her silence. I think Luo Ying's performance was also very good. From a director's point of view, I think she was very expressive. That woman was a new female director, Cheng Yang. Most of her works were famous for their beautiful scenes and superb acting. When she chose her actors, she paid a lot of attention to their close-up expressions on camera. Lin Su felt as if he was going to lose his mind. He had thought that the biggest obstacle was Lin Lu, who had a powerful backer, but he didn't expect Luo Ying to come out of nowhere. Mr. Wu, what do you think of this? Lin Su asked. Wu Wei was now the sponsor of the event, so his words had a decisive impact to a certain extent. Me. I don't know much about these things. I only fear that Lin Lu will mess up this show. It's better for you to choose the people. Director Zhang, I won't get in the way. Wu Wei's change in attitude confused Lin Su all the more. He spun around to address the group. I think Su Ran's performance was outstanding. Zhang Yong sighed. That's a pity. You missed the greatest performance because you had to pee. Lin Su was at a loss for words. Since he could not influence the opinions of the judges or the investors, Lin Su finally fell silent. Even if Luo Ying could deceive the judges, she couldn't deceive the netizens. He had already thought of a way to make Su Ran the host of this show. Luo Ying sat in the waiting room, waiting for the director to come out and announce the news. She had no idea why her heart was pounding. Zhang Yong walked out of the waiting room and looked at everyone. I hereby announce that our final choice of the host is Luo Ying. For the next year, Luo Ying will be our host. As for Luo Ying's partner, I will interview some male idols tomorrow and then make a decision. After Zhang Yong said this, the entire waiting room was in an uproar. Luo Ying. Not Lin Lu or Su Ran. Su Ran clenched the corner of her shirt even more tightly. How could it be Luo Ying? Luo Ying must have pulled some strings. Luo Ying evenly met everyone's eyes. Some were jealous, some were envious, and some were angry. She quickly carried her bag and left the scene. She walked to the bathroom and took a deep breath. This could be considered her first step. Starting from this program, she would completely subvert the original Luo Ying's image and build up her career step by step. Good luck. Luo Ying encouraged herself in a low voice, and a chuckle came from behind her. Are you in the bathroom celebrating your selection? Luo Ying turned her head and saw a woman. She looked mature and had a temperament of perceptiveness. Director, what are you doing here? Luo Ying recognized the woman who was sitting behind Zhang Yong. She was the new director, Cheng Yang. You know me. Cheng Yang smiled and handed her a business card. In that case, I'll skip the introductions. I'm making a movie in the entertainment industry and I would like to invite an actress who can sing and dance to be the female lead. I think you're very suitable. Give me a call when you've thought about it. Chapter 49. 49 Public Opinion. You are listening at novelfull.audio. 49 Public Opinion. Luo Ying was dumbfounded. Wasn't this a movie that exploded in popularity, Dancing Shoes and Summer? In the original book, this movie had skyrocketed Su Ran to stardom. Now that this opportunity was in her hands, of course she had to grab it. Luo Ying nodded and accepted Cheng Yang's business card. You'll definitely hear from me. Cheng Yang looked at Luo Ying and nodded. She admired this girl very much. Her eyes were bright and ambitious. This was the actress she was looking for. It was already evening when Luo Ying got home. She went to buy a lot of clothes that suited her taste. The host's wardrobe was mostly filled with colorful and odd clothes, which did not suit her taste. In the future, when hosting on a weekly basis, she would have to wear her personal clothes to work. Some people who were very good at this would turn the road to work into their private fashion show. Of course, she would not let go of this opportunity to gain more exposure in social media. After tidying up her clothes and choosing a few sets of clothes to wear, Luo Ying changed into her pajamas and sat on the bed to read the entertainment news. She had just opened Weibo when her phone almost crashed. The number of times she had been mentioned by netizens and privately messaged surpassed the default display count. The most popular one was the one announcing that she would be the new host of the Music Center. The netizens were overreacting to that post. Why did they make Luo Ying the host? Isn't she completely useless? How much money did the Music Center receive? Producer Zhang Yong, don't you have a reputation to uphold? Why didn't you choose our little cutie, Su Ran? Su Ran's singing, performance, and appearance are all way superior to Luo Ying's. This comment was highly liked. When she clicked on this person's homepage, she saw a video that had just been released. In the video, Su Ran was wearing a cheongsam. She was slowly moving around and singing an alluring and gentle little song. The comments below couldn't hide their desire to trample on her. Su Ran sang this song so well. Su Ran didn't want to be an idol because she wanted to give you idols a good life. If Su Ran does become an idol one day, all of you pretty girls who can't sing or dance, but only have pretty faces will die of shame. That's absolutely right. I wonder how much money Luo Ying gave the Music Center. Luo Ying yawned. It did not matter to her. As a celebrity, sometimes negative exposure could still be considered exposure. However, she was about to pull a veteran move of turning this to her advantage. Luo Ying suddenly had an idea in her mind. She immediately put her plan into action. She quickly placed an order for a camera and a light for the live broadcast. In less than 20 minutes, her manager, Chi Tong, arrived at Luo Ying's house with a full set of equipment and a script that had been prepared. Luo Ying looked at Chi Tong and laughed. It was no wonder that he was able to become a top manager. He was so efficient. Luo Ying, I've already prepared the script for you. I've also gotten a video of your performance from the staff, Chi Tong said, as he handed the script to Luo Ying. Luo Ying glanced at the script and smiled. This is good, but I think I have something better. Hear me out. Chi Tong helped Luo Ying set up the camera for the live broadcast. In less than a few minutes, Luo Ying's face appeared in the live broadcast. Her haters rushed in at the first moment. How do you have the audacity to start a live broadcast? Are you trying to show off that you got in through the back door and became a host at Music Center? With a face like this, it's obvious that she had plastic surgery. It definitely looks high-tech. Luo Ying chuckled. Of course, I'd start streaming now. Otherwise, how can I convince you people? She looked at the comment about plastic surgery and reached out to pinch her chin and nose, making a face. They're all natural. I sleep on my stomach. If I had plastic surgery, I'd have mushed it all out of shape by now. Chi Tong looked on, breaking out in a cold sweat. It wasn't the first time he'd seen people sucking up to their fans like this. Some people would say that they were being upfront, but Luo Ying's relationship with the public was so bad, so sucking up to her fans like this was simply adding insult to injury. He didn't understand what Luo Ying's intentions were. Chapter 50. 50A Livestream. You are listening at novelfull.audio. 50A Livestream. Chi Tong watched as the number of people in the live broadcast room increased, and the comments became harsher and harsher. He clenched his fists nervously, and his palms were sweating. Luo Ying wasn't planning to argue with these uneducated netizens, was she? Chi Tong felt his brain buzzing. He never thought that he would have to deal with such a troublesome matter right from the start, after being rehired. He looked nervously at the streams of texts. This platform had been specially designed for dancing idols. At that moment, Luo Ying's stream had been pushed to trending section. Most of the text in the comments section was unsightly. She's still not turning off her stream. She's got quite a thick hide. People are slamming her ancestors out of their graves, and she hasn't skipped a beat. How shameless. She's trolling. Stop giving her attention. You're playing into her hands. I'm leaving. That's right, that's right. I don't know how she got her hands on the role, but I wonder if she realizes just how many lives she has ruined by displacing them from this opportunity. The entertainment industry has no place for witches like her. Luo Ying sneered in her heart as she read the chat. This was exactly what she wanted. She put down the things in her hand and slowly sang. Without any accompaniments, she sang an a cappella rendition of the song she had used at the auditions. It was a far more complex song than Su Ran's. It had the melody, the high notes at the climax, and even percussive rap. It was a well-rounded, youthful song. The comments gradually slowed down, and some praises slowly popped up. Luo Ying's acting skills are still a major turnoff, but she definitely found herself some singing chops. This song is no joke. Yeah, and she's singing it a cappella. It's as unplugged and as raw as it gets. She's really amazing. The music department students said that she could even qualify as a teacher in our school. Chi Tong looked at the public opinion that was gradually sawing back, and his heart broke out in cold sweat. Luo Ying was taking a big risk. It would be bad if vulgarities from the chat ended up with her account being suspended. However, he never expected Luo Ying to be this fortunate. It seemed that even God was rooting for her. Just as Chi Tong was about to heave a sigh of relief, a fresh wave of malicious netizens appeared on the bullet screen. Isn't it just an a cappella? Su Ran could also do that. Yeah, she's doing the bare minimum. You guys are acting as if it's the eighth wonder. For all you know, money or some sex deal with Music Center's producer played a role in this. Luo Ying looked at the comments on the screen and sneered. Dear haters, just shush for a second and let your idol compete with me. As for the sex deal, I'd like to see some evidence. Otherwise, my team will track you down and sue you in court. Luo Ying smiled innocently. If anyone is willing to provide evidence, I'm willing to reward you with 1,000,000 yuan. The chats abruptly stopped. 1,000,000. Luo Ying was really rich. The flow of the comments quickly changed. Rich lady, I'm hungry. Please, feed me. Do you need anything else? Do you need a social media army? 1,000,000 yuan could get a lot done, don't you know? One particular comment caught her eye. Miss Luo, may I post the song you just covered on my social media account? The person who posted this comment was none other than Minyu, the producer of the song Luo Ying had just sung. Minyu had only been around for 2 years, but her productions have all caught steam. All the singers that she had groomed had all achieved varying degrees of success. Luo Ying looked at her name and recalled her character arc. In the book, Minyu had a relationship with her brother, Luo Feng. However, she got the unwanted attention of some powerful elite. After being violated, she got addicted to drugs. Luo Feng was a broken man. He veered off into the deep end, committing acts that only grew worse and worse. She had to take this opportunity and save her brother from a terrible fate. Luo Ying quickly went off the stream and returned to her room to flip through the calendar. Chi Tong was unprepared for the stream's abrupt end. It took him several long moments to react. When he finally looked her name up on the internet, the negative sentiments about Luo Ying had mostly dissipated.